Alpine race car team got some points for only the second time this season in Monaco, but their weekend didn't go like they wanted because of a fight between teammates. They were in 9th and 10th place going into a corner before the tunnel, but Ocon tried a really risky move that caused a big crash. Not only did he get punished by the racing officials for the next race in Canada, but he's probably going to get in big trouble with his Alpine team too. Bruno Famin, who's the team boss, talked about what happened. People are wondering if this is the final mistake for Ocon at Alpine, especially since there are rumors that he's been talking to other teams about maybe switching teams starting in 22.5. It's pretty clear that one of the most unstable teammate pairs on the racing grid right now are the two French drivers at Alpine. Ocon and Gasly still have old beef from when they used to race go-karts as kids, and that anger is still bubbling up every time they race against each other. That old fight might have had something to do with the crash that happened on the first lap of Monaco, where Ocon tried to get ahead of his teammate and pushed him really wide into the wall. This caused their wheels to hit each other and made the car go flying in the air. What this crash did was break Ocon's car so badly it couldn't be fixed, especially the gearbox part. And it made Pierre Gasly really angry because he couldn't understand why Ocon would do something so stupid on one of the hardest tracks to pass other cars on. Plus, they're supposed to be on the same team, and they could have easily both finished in the points, which means getting good scores for their team. With this ruined chance, Alpine might have made their position even worse in the team championship, because Williams got 2 points this weekend too with Alex Albon. And this mess won't go without punishment from Alpine. Bruno Famin talked about what happened, and for the first time ever, it looks like the French team finally gets where the problems are coming from. Even if we look at the race before this one in Imola, we'd see that Gasly wasn't very happy about how Ocon got special treatment again. After Ocon's latest crazy move, Famin said that besides the 3-place penalty that Ocon got from the racing, the team would deal with it in a much tougher way. Bruno threatened Ocon with serious consequences for what he did, wanting to remind him that he doesn't have a contract for next year. And since there aren't many great options out there for the French driver, we might see Alpine take a very different approach when they talk about his future. When talking about the crash, Famin said it's really sad that this kind of accident happened because it's exactly what we didn't want to see. He said Ocon's attack was totally wrong and there will be the right consequences. It's pretty weird that Ocon didn't understand how big of a problem he caused, potentially leaving his teammate out of the points and even worse, causing huge money damage to the team during a time when Alpine should be focused on making their car better. After reaching the weight limit, they're now forced to spend tons of money on a new gearbox, which was the part that stopped Ocon from getting back in the race. The French driver refused to talk about the penalty he got from the racing officials, and when asked about the crash with Gasly, he said he didn't really look at the accident again, so he couldn't answer questions about it, but you could hear the fighting attitude in his voice before he switched to a more sorry tone that he used in his tweet. While admitting that you have to be careful when you're fighting your teammate and crashes like this happen naturally when you're pushing 120% to get into the points, Ocon went on to write that today's incident was his fault. He said the gap was too small in the end, and he said sorry to the team, hoping for a well-deserved points finish for the team today. Now, whether Ocon is really sorry or not, what happened still happened. He was taken out of the race because of something he did himself. Even though this hurt Alpine badly in the team championship, even though we're only talking about 1 point of performance, it could potentially cause even more damage to Ocon's career, even though he was heavily supported by the French team over the past few years, especially when Gasly joined because the team hoped the tensions could calm down. We might end up seeing a completely new driver lineup at Alpine pretty soon. Even before the crash in Monaco happened, things between Ocon and Alpine weren't great, mainly because the car has been performing really badly. Of course, that's not an excuse for Ocon's bad overtaking attempt, since something similar happened last year in Australia when the car was much more competitive. But still, you can clearly see the frustration in both Ocon and Gasly, which might be the main reason why Ocon did what he did, even though he was totally wrong to do it. We can't turn back time, And what we have to look forward to now is Alpine's future and whether the dream team of all French drivers will have to be broken up for the sake of future growth and peace within the team. When talking about this topic, Ocon had some serious hidden warnings in what he said. He said it's an important year in his career and he wants to do the best he can. He doesn't want any regrets at the end of the year, and there's going to be a lot of work on and off the track. There are going to be talks with the team because he's in the last year of his contract, and things are now much more in his favor than when they made a deal back in 2019. He said he's a race winner and has finished on the podium, so they have a lot of good arguments in his favor, but after the last race, those good arguments would likely be shifted towards Alpine, especially if they show him the bill he'll have to pay after his reckless driving. What's really important here is that Alpine might have finally understood that the tension between Gasly and Ocon will never go away, no matter how much they hoped it would. And there might be a time for another driver to step in and replace one of the French drivers. Right now, people are talking a lot about it, and it's an open secret that Ocon has had talks with Hayes about taking Magnussen's seat. Magnussen also had a terrible weekend and might be near the end of his Formula One career. After his reckless move on Sergio Perez that took his own teammate out of the race too. As for Alpine, they definitely have options. Besides Mick Schumacher, who already has Formula One experience and is currently racing in their long-distance racing program, the French team could also choose Jack Doohan, who was their student and academy driver last year in F2. Doohan's talent and speed are definitely there, and compared to Mick, it seems like the German driver might have the advantage because of the experience he's had with Mercedes and fixing their car setup in the simulator. Something that could help Alpine a lot when it comes to making their car better based on pure skill, when talking about Mick possibly joining Alpine. Thaman said he is one of the possibilities, that's for sure, like many others. But Mick is currently doing an amazing job in their long-distance racing program. What's really impressive is his attitude. Of course, he's very fast. But everyone knows that it's not always helpful to have a really good lap time because you have something called balance of performance on top. So you have to be careful with how well you perform. From the very first minute, Mick has been very cooperative and very helpful to his teammates. A couple of weeks ago, it wasn't quite clear which driver Alpine would prefer not to see on their team anymore after their terrible start to the season. But now, slowly but surely, that driver is shaping up to be Ocon. His reckless driving and moves that were totally unnecessary in a situation where he should look for what's best for the team and not just himself show that he might not be grown up enough to take Alpine back to the middle of the pack. This is pretty ironic since he was the last driver to get on the podium for Alpine at the same place last year. Strangely enough, this could be the place that would also put a final stamp on his future with the French team. It would be really interesting to see what kinds of consequences Thaman is talking about after Monaco 2024. With all this in mind, do you think there's a real situation where we'll see the all-French lineup at Alpine being broken up? And if so, where do you think Ocon will end up and who will replace him? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do that, make sure to check the video that's appearing on your screen right now.